Yeah. Oh, wow. Don't. It just gets you so emotional just thinking about it.
With no chemotherapy, you'll be dead in 4 months.
Good Lord.
Or with the chemotherapy, we'll give you a 40% chance of living.
You had one choice.
Yeah.
He said, you've just won a national for him and you're getting a bollocking.
Welcome to Talk Horse.
I'll gallop through the highs and lows of the equestrian life.
I'm Pippa Funnell. I've been eventing for many years now, and I'm an author of a series of children's books, Pippa's Ponytails.
And as you can see, I am not Tristan Phipps. I'm Louise Bell, International Grand Prix dressage rider. And I'm very happy to be keeping his seat warm today because our Tristan is not here, is he?
No, he is not. And thank you so much, Louise, for stepping in. I think we're going to have fun.
Yeah, it's going to be an exceptional podcast. So whether you're a seasoned rider, a horse lover, or like me, you just want to know more about everything, this is definitely the podcast for you.
So saddle up, join our equestrian community, and let's talk horse. Louise.
Pippa.
Hello, welcome back.
Again.
For any listeners out there, Louise was our guest from last week's show. We've had a major dilemma with the fact that Tristan has got stuck in Hong Kong.
But for anybody that is missing Tristan, see?
So for the listeners out there, Louise is holding up a photograph of the man himself, Tristan.
We could keep him just here, couldn't we? He's sort of with us.
I must admit, he looks, from the photo you've just shown here, I think he looks better with a jumper on than a shirt halfway undone. Anyway, but Louise, thank you, because I really appreciate you stepping in.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
I know we had a lot of fun last time you were on the show, and obviously your knowledge of horses and things, and I thought the podcast you did last week was really well received. So for anyone who actually hasn't watched or listened to the episode from last week, why the hell not? But anyway, you better tune in. But Louise, for those that haven't listened, just give a quick recap of who you are.
Well, obviously I'm Louise. I was a former showing star, decided to transform my life in the middle of my life to dressage. I've gone through some really hard times in my life, and I just like to be an inspiration to other people to make sure that they never give up hope and just keep trying.
Thank you, Louise. Now, we have some big news. Talk Horse will be going live at the Royal Windsor Horse Show on the Saturday in front of a live audience.
Wow. Are you nervous about that, Pippa?
Yeah, I'm very nervous, but I'm also quite nervous what Tristan might sort of deliver.
Live
sometimes
on air.
Yeah. So, I mean, it would certainly be fun, and I really hope, people want to come and listen to us.
Yeah, well, it's the best show, isn't it?
This big live event is going to be on Saturday, the 17th of May.
Oh, the Saturday at Royal Windsor Horse Show is... Well, they're all days at the Royal Windsor Horse Show are special, but the Saturday's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of our iconic venues, obviously, in the Great Windsor Park. It will definitely be featuring many of the top show jumping riders in the world. It's one of the few 5-star show jumping shows.
Brilliant. But there's so many other classes there.
Well, you've
showing
won there, haven't you?
Yeah, I've had many wonderful years at Royal Windsor Horse Show, many wins with different horses, but it is such a special show to win at. And I even remember doing my first side saddle class there, and I won, actually. Yeah, I did. I wore all the gear. I looked elegant.
I have to say I've actually never done side saddle. I've done probably the nearest.
Really hard.
The nearest I've got the side saddle is getting stuck going round the world.
In Pony Club.
Yes.
But Windsor has everything there. They have the best stands there. Everything you want is there. It's just the most beautiful show. And I mean, I'm a royal fan, and every time I go there, I keep thinking, oh my God, Henry VIII was here. I'm a big Henry VIII fan.
And you do. You look straight up to the castle.
Yeah. and the driving they have there, and you can go and walk the course and everything. I mean, it's just the best show, the best.
So a mixture of everything for anyone that's keen to go.
And actually, for Talk Horse listeners, we have a really special deal, which is 20% off the ticket price. And the code is TH Windsor, all one word, capital letters. And so that's a huge offer to everybody. So make sure you buy those tickets.
You're getting really good at this. You're not even reading this. So for those listeners out there, you better head down to Windsor. And Lou, you better be there on standby in case.
Coming just in case Tristan doesn't make it.
Exactly.
Although wouldn't be quite as popular as Tristan.
I don't know.
I'm not taking my top off.
No, that you definitely aren't. I won't let you. So this week on Saturday, we have the most famous race in the world of racing, the Grand National at Aintree, which I think goes back to 1839.
Wow.
And I've watched it over many years, a bit like that. But have you ever had do you back on it? Have you had many winners?
I don't, but I have a great connection with Aintree in a weird way, because when I was a kid in London, I think I was 3 years old, and my dad decided to put the Grand National on the TV. But I can remember we put a £1 bet on red rum to win. And I can't remember, was it 1972 or 3? And he won, and there was something about that history, that moment. And from that day, my sister and I, every year, would get so excited on Grand National Day. And that is it's the best race.
Red Rum, obviously, is the most successful horse.
Yeah.
He won 3.
And the most beautiful.
He won 3 nationals and was second in 2. So over 5 years, he had the most incredible record. But I remember he used to then tour the country a bit, and he stabled at a great friend of mine's house. So I met him in person, and he was such a beautiful, beautiful horse. And I straight away think of Red Rum. But the other horse and rider I remember is, and I know one of our very early episodes of Talk Horse, Tristan said what were my favourite equestrian horsey movies. And I mentioned Black Beauty, which is obviously one of your favourites. Yeah. And the second movie I mentioned was Champions. Which is the story about Bob Champion and Aldaniti.
Oh, what a story that was. Champions, for anybody that hasn't watched it, you need to watch it. It is incredible. The theme tune is like, oh, wow. It just gets you so emotional just thinking about it.
So let's talk horse with Bob Champion. Bob, welcome. Welcome to Talk Horse. Thank you so much for making the trip down to London. Your name has come up over quite a few of the episodes we've done. A truly remarkable story. But Louise and I would love to hear where it all began so far away, where your love affair with horses started.
Well, it started when I was a kid, actually. I'm from 7 generations of professional huntsmen. And,
wow.
So Dad was a huntsman. And when I was a kid, he hunted the Cleveland up in Yorkshire. And I can always remember the first day he said I was going to ride. And I can still remember it now, actually. I don't know, I must have been about 5 or 6 years old. And he pulled out a pony. And I must have been riding it for about 3 minutes, and he decided it was time I started jumping. And I can still remember him pulling out a ladder, chasing me over it, and I jumped the ladder and fell off the other side. And I didn't think that was the game for me, so I kept away from ponies, actually. And the girl groom, Margaret Silman, was the person that really got me riding, actually, and she kept Dad out of the way, and I started enjoying it, I must admit. But I can still remember I didn't like the jumping bit, I promise you then. And we're out hunting and we got wired in. And there was a 5-barred gate. And it was a big one as well.
Oh, my word. A bit bigger than a
like
ladder.
an iron one too.
Oh, no.
Oh, Lord.
And we trotted back. He said, we'll go the long way back, which was about 10 miles.
Wow.
So he went back 100 yards, turned in, knew my pony had followed, popped over the gate, and mine jumped it. And I thought, Jesus, that was good. So I went and jumped it both ways again. And
No way.
from that day, I was crazy about jumping, actually.
Hooked.
And then from that day, what made you go down the path of being a jockey rather than a show jumper? Or
I did a bit of show jumping as a kid, but I didn't like the hanging around all day for classes. I think that was
I
the
can
thing
agree
that
with
was
that. Yeah.
against me.
Yeah.
And I loved the hunting and did a lot of hunter trials those days. And a friend of mine, Timmy Hill, they had a big riding school in Saltburn and they were dealers. And so Timmy and I would jump Timmy's ponies and we'd usually finish first and second in the cross-country bit and win the pairs. Those ponies were sold that day and we had 2 more the next day. So I think that was the start of really wanting to be competitive. And Timmy was doing all the schooling. I was really sitting on with them, and enjoying it.
The pairs hunter trials, they were just so much fun.
I know,
Yeah.
I used to do it. And
Yeah.
they used to, exactly that, hunter trials every week. And I remember in the Easter holidays being so sad when they were cancelled due to bad weather. And
Absolutely, yeah.
that was through the pony club. And that
Yeah.
was...
Oh, it was the
It
best
definitely
ground,
encourages you to
best
be
grounding
competitive.
I ever had, I
Yeah.
must admit. And, I think that was the start, the real love. And, basically, I lived only 3 miles from Redcar Racecourse. So Dad used to take us racing every meeting there.
So that's where
even school days. And
that's where the
Sounds like a good
beginning
guy
of
to me.
that was, really, it was Lester Piggott's fault, actually.
Lester Piggott, yeah.
I'm going to blame him because every time he came to Redcar, the crowds were double.
Wow.
So, basically I thought I like that,
Yeah.
And that's how it started. And then my uncle was head lad at Major Peter Caslett's, and I used to go and spend summer down there for about 3 or 4 weeks. I was very fortunate. I rode some of the Queen Mother's horses
Wow,
out,
goodness.
the Rip, and that was what I wanted. And
It was almost meant to be, wasn't it? You know, from the start.
Being born in the northeast, when the careers officer came round, there was only really 2 jobs up there: Skinny Grove Mines, and I didn't want to go down
Oh, no.
10 miles under the North Sea where they used to kill somebody every day.
Oh.
Yeah.
And also Dorman Long Steelworks. That was my choice. And it was really Dad was the one that stopped me going down the mines because he thought, I'll stop you, because those days the pit ponies, so many were injured and everything. We had to go and pick them up. And
People don't know how lucky they've got it these days, do they?
so they sent me down in a cage one day, down to the pit ponies.
Sounds like a shark
That
cage.
sorted me out very
Yeah.
quickly.
Wow.
And
you see photographs back in history of the
Yeah.
pit ponies, and
yeah.
most of them spent their whole lives
Well, they used
underground,
to they used to spend 3 months down there,
All right.
come out, and they were blind.
yeah.
And that really
Put
put
you
me
off.
off anyway. And I didn't want to be down there either.
No.
And
Oh,
so
what a story. Yeah.
on my 15th birthday, they sent me down to my uncle's farm in Wiltshire. So it started off there. So I worked on the farm and went to evening school, doing the engineering course, passed that with flying colours, but what a waste of time that was,
It's a bit like me
Not
doing
needed.
a bit like me doing a secretarial course.
Yes.
That's it, yeah.
Never needed.
And so, basically did a bit of hunting, then had my first ride in a point-to-point when I was just 15, actually, at Lark Hill, and had a little bit of a chance going to the last, but I knocked it on the ground, I promise you.
Oh no.
And I remember lying there thinking, this isn't the game for me, it hurts. But thankfully I rode the horse a week later and it won. So
Wow.
that was me hooked from that day. And
So we're going to move on a bit now.
Yeah.
So then how, or am I missing a big chunk of the story? I don't know, but where did the story start with the association with Josh Gifford? Of course, Josh being my great friend Tina's father.
Tina's father.
yes,
Tina Cook.
it all started really from Tony Grantham, actually, who was the royal jockey, and they had a mare that kept falling, actually.
Another one.
And asked Josh if I could ride it. So we went to Kempton. There was only 3 runners, myself, John Frankham and Jeff King. And we got down the start and said, and Frank says, basically, we'll just trot round, really, and we won't play jockeys until we've jumped the second last. So we jumped the second last, all 3 upside. The speed we were going, something had to turn over. Who was it? It was me.
No.
And I can still remember lying on the ground feeling sorry for myself.
Yeah.
And the next thing I see, Josh standing there, the horse in his hand. Do you mind getting up, jumping on this horse and countering by the post for the 3rd prize money?
Oh, yes, of course.
So I kind of done as well as I thought I had, actually, because he never asked me to ride anything for 3 weeks. And next time I was riding quite a few winners for different trainers, and I was at Chepstow, and Josh those days, well, he always did lead his horses out. People thought he was giving you different orders, but really he was getting away from the owners. But and he was leading his horse out at Chepstow and said, "Bob, where'd you go tomorrow?" I said, "Windsor." He said, "Ride one for me." And he said, "How do you think you'll run?" I said, "I'll win." And he said, no, his would win. I said, "I'll have a tenner on with you. Mine finished in front of yours." And thankfully I won, and his was second.
Excellent.
Got me tenner. Went to Windsor the next day, and a horse called Captain Hardy for Major Wigan. It had no, funny enough, he had no form whatsoever. Kept pulling up. It must have been a good day that day, but he went and won, and that got me the job, and that's how it all started. And Josh was a genius, actually. They had a terrific eye for racehorses, and but his record, was amazing.
Yeah. So when did the great Aldaniti come along?
He came along third of the way through the career, because he had so many problems through his life. He was bought at Ascot Sales as a 3 or 4-year-old, and Josh went to about 4 or 5 or something. He was dropping out, and he just nudged him, have another one, and he ended up buying it. And then it was a matter of trying to sell the horse then, because they were very brave. They used to buy a lot of young horses, and if they couldn't sell them, they'd run in Althea's name.
Right.
So he was one of them they couldn't sell, and so he went to Ascot and won quite nicely. And the Embricoses bought him. Mrs. Embricos was a steward that day.
And of course, they'd been involved with some of Tina's horses as well.
Yes,
Fantastic.
So they bought him before they left the racecourse, actually. Josh could have sold him 10 times over. And then he ran again at Ascot, and the penalty beat him, and then he was 4th at Cheltenham in the Sun Alliance Novice Hurdle. So that was his start of his season. And then first run next season he broke down, and he broke down about 3 or 4 times.
Really?
And
I mean, that must be fairly, that's in itself, to get horses back from, when you say he broke down 3 or 4 times,
Yeah.
that's...
And he broke a bone in his hock.
Oh, my word.
In the Hennessy. He only got beat under 3 lengths. And he did it must have early on, but I couldn't pull him up because he used to pull so hard.
Yeah.
And then I got my cancer and everything.
How did that all come about? I mean, how did you know something wasn't right? If you don't mind me asking.
Well,
that.
Yeah, you can ask as long as you love. Everybody seems to know.
Well, this...
I used to go to America every summer.
Yeah.
Because I used to go for about 3 months, and I rode out every day, and I had this swelling. It didn't really affect me, but it started worrying. It didn't really worry me. And I started going out with a vet, a lady vet, mind you. And having ridden the winner at Fairhill, I managed to get her into bed that night. And, and the first thing she said to me was, if I was you, I'd get the first plane back to England and see a specialist.
Yeah.
And that put the fear of God in me. So
you did?
Got on a plane that next night and arrived at Heathrow, rang up Alan Thomas in the Park Street Clinic, who used to patch us jockeys up those days. And he said, go to the Royal Marsden and see a Professor Peckham. And had 2 x-rays and all that. And they said, we'll ring you in a few days' time. And he rang back and said, we want you in on Monday, and 2 operations that day. And then they got the results of the tests, and then the chemotherapy started. And
pretty much immediately, yeah.
Well, they gave me 2 choices, to be honest. They said, with no chemotherapy, you'll be dead in 4 months.
Good Lord.
Or with the chemotherapy, we'll give you a 40% chance of living. So
you had one choice.
Yeah.
I didn't really. I was stupid. I said to the professor, I said, well, I think I'll go back riding, and with a bit of luck, I'll get killed in the novice chase. And he looked at me as if I was stupid and said, Bob, you're not a bad novice chase jockey. If you were on a 6-4 shot, you'd give it a ride, wouldn't you? And that's how he talked me into having the treatment. And
great. Thank God he was knowledgeable about racing, really.
Yes, he was, yeah. So that's how it started, and the chemo was barbaric those days.
I mean,
I was sick 24 hours a day.
Oh.
I was in 7 days having it on the drip constantly. Then I'd have 2 days off, back in for 1 day, 3 days off, back in for 1 day, 2 days off, then back in for the 7.
So there was no way you could have ridden whilst doing all this treatment.
I had strength to walk, never mind anything.
And how long did that go on for?
That went on for 7 months.
Goodness gracious.
Constantly. My last one was on January the 1st, 1980. Wow. I can still remember the day. That was thank God, no more chemo. And I tried riding out about a month later, and I still wasn't strong enough, and I daren't go down to Josh's and ride out and see how bad I was.
No.
And so I rode out a little bit of Paul Coles and flat horses, and I knew I wasn't fit enough. And
So did you start doing more?
I did everything I could, a lot of running and things like that. But the thing that got me back the quickest, I went straight back to America. And I was sitting on about 15 horses a morning, and that got me fit. Got
you back.
And I worked hard. But I think the weather was the thing that helped me.
Totally understand
that. If I'd stayed in England, it would have taken me 4 or 5 months longer.
Yeah.
But nice sunny weather.
Yeah.
But the worst thing was that I lost all my feeling in my hands and feet.
Goodness.
So have you ever tried walking on blocks of ice where it felt like, and riding horses
with your hands?
When you can't feel your hands.
Difficult.
I know.
Yeah. That was
That's still one of the symptoms now, isn't it? It's friends I've got.
Yeah.
People.
And that was the hardest thing too.
Yeah.
Everything felt numb, you know, and thankfully it came back. But in the early days it wasn't so good,
difficult.
You're more on instinct than anything.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, back in Findon,
what was going on at Josh's
with Aldaniti? I mean,
well, I came back.
So what made you come back? Because nice weather.
Well, it was nice weather. I got back in end of September, and Josh never had early runners anyway.
So you purposely came back. You felt you were strong enough, ready to come back for the national hunt
I'd ridden winners
season.
And everything. I don't think I was quite as good when I came back. It took a bit getting back into the rhythm of the racing over here. One of my first rides back for Josh did win, and it was a great day because it was Josh's 500th training success.
Wow.
So that meant an awful lot to everybody. Then things went wrong. The horses got the virus. Well, it was when they brought the injections in.
Oh, don't.
And the injecting flu jabs and jabbing fit horses wasn't the right thing. And the horses were running absolutely desperate. And the majority of the owners didn't want me. And they were blaming me. But thankfully they were running no better for anybody else. And Josh was always there and thinking the right time, And I think over the next 2 months, I only had about 5 rides for anybody.
Really?
And I can remember he rang up and said, Ascot on Saturday, 2 of your old horses are back. They've been off as long as you have. And it was the SGB chase and the Reynolds, 2 big chases anyway. And Henry Bishop won the SGB and Kaibo won the big novice chase, beating Dramatist. And, I went from the down and out to the Golden Boy in an hour and a quarter.
And then the owners were
keen all back in.
And I had the next 29 rides, I rode 16 winners. So everything came back and they were riding winners from lots of different people. Then February the 13th came around and Aldaniti came back to the track. I always remember the day, and still remember it. Would he be the same? He'd been off as long as myself, really, and back from 4 times. He'd been fired twice, and he'd had so many problems. And so he went to Ascot and absolutely bolted up.
Oh, my
and
God.
I can remember.
Was that over a distance? That was over
3 mile.
Oh right, yeah. So
it was a decent race. It wasn't. I can remember that the Embricos in them back because he was 66-1 for the national that morning, and the weights.
So did they decide to enter him then, or was it always planned because he could go over the distance?
Oh, he was entered then. The weights came out that day, so we didn't run him before.
Oh,
then.
I see.
Right.
It's very complicated. This
very
racing.
complicated.
Yes. Well, I know for the weights, yeah.
And so he came back, absolutely bolted up, and 66-1. He was back, back down to about 12-1, second favourite in the national. So people made a few quid out of him.
Yeah,
and he bolted up, as I said, and. The next, would we run him in the Gold Cup again? And thankfully, we didn't. And Nick
saved him for the national.
Did save him for the national. He was always. We thought he was better fresh and everything. It was only 6 weeks in between, and went up to Liverpool. Peculiarly, he was lucky to get to Liverpool actually because Sussex went down on the Tuesday with foot and mouth again.
Oh, you're joking.
And you couldn't move anything.
No.
And Josh at midnight got a phone call from the chief of police, get the horses out of Findon by 4:30 in the morning or they won't be going anywhere.
Was that in the film?
He must have had a few quid on.
I can't. Do you know what? I'm going to have to watch the film again because it's so long ago.
Was that
since
bit in the film?
That's not in the film.
They should have had that in the film.
Wow.
So the horses went up a day or two earlier.
That's even more incredible.
When we talk, I mean, am I religious? Probably I am. But when we talk about things that are meant to be.
Absolutely. Bit of kismet.
The odds about the two of you.
Yeah.
It was obviously meant to be, wasn't it?
But I never sat on the horse, did it? Josh used to ride him out all the time.
Yeah.
It was his horse. He used to pull pretty hard, and Josh had hands like silk, and he could relax him and everything. And so I only sat on him the day before he went to Ascot. I jumped 2 or 3 fences on him, and we didn't jump anymore because his legs were like
absolutely.
So he won at Ascot. Never jumped another fence before Aintree. But Josh, I was allowed to sit on him. We took him to Guy Harwood's one morning for the TV and give him a canter.
That's where I gallop all my horses at Coomlands.
And then I rode him at Liverpool on the 2 mornings he was up there, and he had a hack ground and everything.
And what was it? I really want to ask this question, if you don't mind. When you were at Liverpool that particular time, you walk the course, don't you?
I walked it twice.
Yeah, but what was it? Because it's all changed now. So for me, I want to know what it was like to walk the course with those fences, with everything that's gone on. I don't know what the feeling you must have had.
Walking it, walking it, but also being on the landing side of Beecher's Brook and looking back to see
know, it's
the
like
drop.
I was more worried about the ground than anything, and I walked it twice, and there was a bit of ground about 5 foot right on the inner. There was decent ground. Then it was horrible ground, all wide outside, good ground. And Josh would never let you go up the centre anyway. It was either inner or outer, and he didn't mind how far you went round the outer. And so our plan was to go round the outer and
stay out of the way of
everything.
Yeah.
And we got there, got down to the start, and Josh never gave any orders ever in my whole career. And
interesting,
trust though.
Yeah,
well, trust. Horses are all different. They were youngsters. You never knew what was going to happen.
Exactly, and how they're running. That's up to
but
you.
And Josh was down at the start. He never used to go down the start.
Oh God!
He was getting away from the owners again. I should
put
think.
The fear of God in you.
And he was there.
I hope the empiricals aren't listening.
He was smoking 150 a day. And
I think I would be.
Yeah.
I said, Governor, if I win, you'll give up smoking. And he says, if you win, I'll definitely give up smoking.
Wow.
And he did.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And then he ended up smoking cigars.
But that's different, obviously.
But that was it, he said, and he said, don't take it up too early. That's all he said.
Oh, gosh.
And
how did you feel after everything that you'd been through at that start? Did you have a sense that you had this overriding confidence that you thought you could win it? Or did you think this is amazing for me to just get here and Aldaniti to get here? What was your feeling at the start?
My feeling, I was so
race?
confident I'd win.
Really?
Yeah. And I
Belief.
remember Jonathan Powell, who was writing my book at the time, and I just said, he said, oh, we've got here. That's the main thing. I said, we've got here, but we've won.
Yeah.
And I was so confident he'd win, and till he overjumped at the first.
Yeah. And then you're doubting yourself.
And then the second he dropped his hind legs because he stood off too far.
Yeah.
And the third fence there was a big ditch.
Yeah.
And it made him look. And from that moment, he was a joy to ride. And,
wow.
And, my plan was to take it up going to the last. But I remember jumping Beecher's about 28th or 9th.
Yeah.
And I must have had the best run around the canal turn than any other jockey's ever had in the history of the race, because 3 fences later, which was Valentine's, 3.5 miles from home, I jumped to the front. And I'm thinking, oh, my God. So I started thinking of excuses. So I tracked over.
Are you thinking, I hope I can see a stride, or I hope Aldaniti can see a stride?
Don't miss.
I was thinking, basically I thought I got across to the inner where that really good ground was. I walked and found that I was quite happy there. And, I jumped a fence and thought about different nationals and Red Rum's national, jump another fence. And
so you're actually thinking that
I was thinking,
you were going, oh my God.
I remember Bob Davies had won on Lucius, and he took it up too early and he still won. And I thought, so I got round to the chair, jumped that, and I thought, I'm going the right pace, because my time in America did me the world of good, because I could do a piece of work to 1/5 of a second. So you had to, over there, riding those good flat horses, you had to keep everything smooth. And I think that was a great help to me. And I got him into a nice rhythm. He was jumping out of my hands, and I kept popping away, and got to the third last. And I had a look round, and Philip Blacker, I thought, I've got him beat. And so I thought that all the time I was beating Philip, and because I'd tracked John Thorne on Spartan Missile down to Beecher's, and he disappeared. Maybe I jumped by him or what, but I never saw him again in the race. And so I thought he was out of it. I knew he was my main danger. And then jumped the second last, and I kept thinking, just hold him together, because those legs aren't the greatest, and he's going to get tired. And jumped I came to the last, and it was the only time I couldn't see a stride on him.
Oh, God.
And I liked seeing strides, there was no stride there. I thought,
oh no, what'd you do? Hand down.
I just
Sit out the back
I
door.
just thought I'll let him just drift a little bit left-handed.
Give him a bit of room.
Give him an extra stride, and it paid off, and then jumped it and went away. And
then you got such a long run in, haven't you?
a
It
long
just
run
seems
in.
shoulder.
And then I felt this horse come to my quarters.
Oh, my God.
And I thought, we've got the running rail in a second.
Yeah.
And it came to my quarters, and then got the running rail, and I started going away again, and I beat him, 3 lengths in the end. If it was another half furlong, it'd have been 10 lengths.
Yeah.
He just kept galloping.
Wow.
But then pulled up,
And
thinking, first thing I thought in my brain was, what a way to retire this would be.
Amazing.
And then I thought,
amazing.
next second, I'd like to do it again next year. Came back in, did all the TV, press, radio interviews, and
the emotions.
nearly forgot I'd arrived in a race an hour later for Josh on one he fancied a bit.
Yesterday's
Surely you could
news.
just say, I'm done. For today, I'm done. I want to crack open the bottle of champagne
Talk about
now.
not being able to
that's
enjoy
it,
your moment. I mean, that is...
So went out and finished about 4th or 5th. And,
Well, at least you didn't fall in that race.
Yeah. And, he gave me a bollocking.
Yeah.
But I know now it was only to bring me down to earth.
Yeah, but he was probably giving you a bollocking because he was thinking, how the hell am I going to give up smoking?
Yes.
That's it, yeah. I still remember it, now.
Oh, wow.
And Snowy, the travelling headlad, said, that man's mad. He said, you've just won a national for him and you're getting a bollocking.
It's keeping you grounded.
What a magical.
Yeah.
He kept me grounded, I promise you. And that was it,
That is like, I mean, even just hearing it now.
Then I went to Ascot 3 days later, rode a couple of winners, then had a fall and broke some bones in my back. So,
because that's what happens.
yeah.
That's it, horses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ups and downs of horses.
Yeah.
But
I suppose when I go back to Aintree, which I'll be going up this week again, I always think about Aldaniti, what a day it gave me. And I was very fortunate. I rode in quite a few other nationals before, and they all meant just the same. I was very lucky. I rode in the Crisp Red Rum National, and I jumped the last third when Crisp got just touched off. And I can still remember that race, every part of it, actually. And then, when I went and rode Aldaniti, that was something else, It was up there, put it honest.
Yeah.
And as I went by the post, I've never had a feeling like it.
amazing. So then from that moment, tell us how then we're now moving the clocks right forward. I'm also dying to hear, the amazing work that you've done in setting up the Bob Champion Cancer Trust and the incredible amounts of money you've raised for the researching cancer.
Rightly so, yeah.
But I didn't really set it up. Any of us.
Well, it's named after you.
No, but
I think you should.
After I won the national, a lot of people in the country had backed me, and they sent the winnings to the Royal Marsden care of me.
Okay.
Oh, that's
And,
amazing.
How wonderful.
So there was quite a lot of money sent. And Nick Embrick and the professor got talking. They didn't know what to do with the money. So that's how it all started. And from then, we built the unit in the Royal Marsden, and we've got another one in the Norwich Science Park. And we are in just research, really, and coming up with the cures and everything. And we've raised, getting on for about 17 million, I suppose.
Unbelievable.
But we built them, we fund them.
Unbelievable.
We fund our own scientists, really.
Quite remarkable. And I know how all the time you're hearing of new updates with treatments for cancer, aren't you? And,
Yeah, I mean, it is
and without this
without this work,
research.
yeah.
We've got good scientists and everything, which
Yeah.
helps in the country. And and in the world, let's be honest. And
then I know you got your MBE. Was that for the story of your national win and the Grand National win and everything you went through? But through the work with the Cancer Trust, you were then.
I think I got my MBE, a couple of years after the national,
and then
a couple of years I got my CBE a couple of years ago.
Wow.
And that's for really the work with the trust
double
done for
awards.
Yeah.
Rightly so.
Yeah.
We salute you.
Yeah, we do. We're not worthy.
We do. Incredible. The world needs a lot more Bob champions.
Absolutely. But what was it like to work with the film?
Well, I think John Hurt did a terrific job. Steve McQueen was dead and people like that. But no, he was brilliant.
I have to say, I brought up the clip on YouTube this morning, and I just got goosebumps and welled up. The opening clip of Aldaniti galloping on the downs.
Well, that's the music.
But with the music, the music
is
incredible.
Yeah.
The real story is still incredible as well, because it got me welling up just talking about it.
But, when Lord Grade was the first person involved in the film, and he actually rang me and could I come to London? I thought, what the hell's this, What's he want? And he talked about I wanted to do the film and everything, and that's how it all started. So I did a lot with the scriptwriter, Evan Jones, and that was it. And let Peter Shaw and everybody get on with the job making the film. I went quite a lot of the filming, but not every day.
Yeah.
And I only went really when they wanted me there for the press. And so it was still a lot of days because it's quite boring, when they take 10 shots for the same scene and everything. I went up to Liverpool when they did the filming up there, and they didn't get that many times to do things. But they did employ a lot of old professional jockeys and everything, and Terry Biddlecombe was in charge of all that. And
so he was in charge of organising the jockeys, was he?
Yeah,
Terry,
he was. Yeah.
Hen Knights.
Yeah,
Henrietta
he
Knights.
was such a character, wasn't he?
He did a terrific job getting everything right and everything, but I went up really for the press side, and then the film came out, and we had a royal premiere, and most of the royal family went actually. But I saw the film about a month before the premiere with Lord Grade, just him and I, and the first film was 2.5 hours long, and we watched it, and he said, "I've got to shorten it," he said, "because you've got to have a loo break those days, if anything over certain," and he said it would ruin it.
Yeah.
So he
agree.
He said, "I've got to get it back to 1:50 or something or other," and I think that was his best move. He took a lot of good things out of it, but
I was going to say, how do they? That must have been difficult for them to cut.
But they were the experts.
Yeah,
and,
the editing was.
It's like, I hope these guys here don't edit.
Yeah,
us too much. Or
but
your story.
I didn't realise that. I don't know nowadays if a film can go for 2.5 hours or whatever it was, but they couldn't those days. And
were you, when you watched it, were you really pleased? I mean,
I was delighted. I was petrified before. I didn't
can
sleep
imagine.
the night before.
Yeah, I mean, it was. But it must be strange seeing someone playing you. Like, I mean,
Did you get
John
to meet
Hurt was
John Hurt?
absolutely brilliant, but it must be odd seeing that.
Yeah, but John and I both Northerners.
Excellent.
And we got on really well, which helped. And, I never told him anything, and he never told me anything. He said, I like doing things from the scripts, he said, and he did a fantastic job.
And who was his double? Who was his double in the race?
John Burke a little bit, and who won the national on rag trade because he was the same size and everything. So John didn't do any of the jumping, but he did a lot of the riding.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Insurance wouldn't let him do any jumping.
No.
And he wanted to do a little bit, but he was stopped. And but we didn't discuss anything. When we were filming, John would be asking me what did I fancy today, and try to give him a winner or two so he'd have a few quid on one.
Now, the Red Book, because we haven't talked about
This is
your wedding
life.
day.
Oh yes,
How was the
that's
theme
why it
for
didn't
that?
last long.
Oh, I can't remember.
Oh, I can't
It
remember
was
the
quite
theme.
dramatic.
This is your life.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a bit of a shock, I promise you.
What, getting married?
Both, actually.
So hang on a minute. So this all started at your wedding?
Yeah,
No
Eamon
way!
Andrews, yeah.
Oh my God,
I
that's
wondered
incredible.
why nobody had spoken to me for weeks. And, well, I'd ridden a winner the day before and never thought anything about it, and went to the wedding.
Like you do.
Yeah.
Like you do.
Oh.
And I was thinking, one thing went through me, why is there two marquees?
We didn't order
Two
that
lots
one.
of friends.
I didn't really take much notice about it. I thought, why is there two marquees? And got married and come out of the church, and there's Eamon, and
I mean, it was the
we went,
best program,
we went and
wasn't
did
it?
it. It was done very slick. It was
Really?
very quick, actually, I must admit. And then we
What a day.
carried on
I
with the
remember.
reception.
I mean,
and-
I actually
Yeah.
watched it, and
And then-
I think David Broom was on
Yeah.
This Is Your Life too. I
He
mean,
was.
there's
Yeah.
not
definitely.
many
Yeah.
equestrians.
Not
Yeah.
at all.
yeah, and then, I had a day off, and I was back riding the next day. So
Like you do.
That's
yeah,
a job.
like it was a job,
So we haven't discussed what is now the London International Horse Show, but what was Olympia. For many years, we've had the Shetland Pony Grand National, the Bob Champion Cancer Trust Shetland Pony Grand National.
Yes,
The best.
I suppose he's been doing it for about 6 or 7 years, actually. They've raised over 200,000.
Wow.
But it's a brilliant way of getting kids riding. And I promise you, those Shetlands aren't the easiest
No,
things to
not
ride.
at
No,
all.
the little devils,
they
aren't
can
they?
be little
Yeah.
characters. And the kids, we've had some good kids. Well, before I was started as well. I've never rode in it, but Jim Crowley started with it, champion flat jockey.
Yeah.
He was a really good jump jockey. Safi Osborne.
Safi.
She's
Used to
now
train
very-
Safi.
She's a brilliant
Jockey
rider.
now,
Yeah.
isn't she?
Tristan Davis, Sam, he
Yeah.
started doing it. There's so many, Harry Bentley, there's so many that started that way.
Yeah.
And, there's some good kids coming out of it. And I'm not saying they all want to be jockeys, but,
know.
they make show jumpers, eventers,
Yeah.
and a bit of everything.
Francis Whittington was
That's
another
right,
one.
yeah.
He
So,
started.
but it's a great grounding. They've got to be between 8 and 13 years old and less than 5 foot.
It's wild. And you know what? It doesn't matter whether you know anything about horses or not, but watching that Shetland Grand National is just so much fun.
The crowd love it.
Crowd love
Really
it.
get behind
Yeah.
it. And they're the same at the county shows
Yeah.
or little shows or anything. They went out to Hong Kong.
You're kidding.
Did you go
What,
to Hong
recently?
No, I
Really?
didn't go. But they went out and it was, I think they're going back because the crowd absolutely
Yeah.
loved it. I don't suppose they see much things
No,
like that
not at
over
all.
there. But it went down really
Yeah.
well.
So, if there was one piece of advice that you could give youngsters coming in, or any advice you could give, what would your advice be?
Well, one thing, you got to work hard, whatever
Good
sport
answer.
or anything you're in.
Yeah.
And horses are work as well, but it's a lot of pleasure, and really enjoy it and listen. I think that's the most important, to listen to somebody that actually is a good rider.
But that's what's so inspirational about yourself, is the fact that, you've overcome some massive, massive difficulties, but the work that you've put into it is, for me, what's an inspiration to the younger generation of today, that it's not always expected to work so hard, and there is nothing better than putting the work in.
And the mental strength you must have had, overcoming being told, that you had potentially had 4, 5, 6 months to live.
Yeah.
I didn't want to die, number one.
Well, there you go.
That was the first
Yeah,
thing.
quite right.
But I just wanted to get back riding.
Yeah.
And I think that was my ambition
And that
at
helped
that
you to be
time.
strong.
That got me through the treatment. I wasn't going to give up. And, to be honest, the doctors never thought I would ride again.
Yeah.
Because of the damage they'd done to my lungs. But, you know, I was down to 40% oxygen levels, and
Wow.
people don't realise how hard that bit was, getting fit again. And then thankfully I went to America where the weather was a lot warmer.
Yeah.
I'd have got fit in England, but it would have taken me a lot longer.
Bob, thank you so much for telling our
It's
listeners
been absolutely incredible.
your story.
Incredible.
Really has been truly inspirational.
Right horse on the right day always helps.
What a great guest Bob was. I think what I found one of the highlights of that whole interview was hearing him telling us that actual ride he had at the National on Aldaniti from the first fence to the last, and his thought process as he was riding the race.
It was incredible. I mean, I got completely emotional. I was almost riding that finish line with him. But what a story. I mean, incredible guy.
To overcome that hideous battle he had with the dreaded sea.
Yeah. Inspirational.
Inspiration has to give people so much strength.
Yeah.
If you've loved us talking horse, make sure you join our equestrian community. You can follow it on all the various channels, Spotify, Apple, YouTube. It's out there. You can listen to it.
And don't forget to leave us a review and to help us spread the word about everything Talk Horse. Also to check the podcast description for the Royal Windsor Horse Show, TH Windsor, I believe is the code, and to help get your 20% off your tickets, to make sure you go and watch Pippa live.
And Tristan.
And Tristan.
Yes, please, we do really, really love hearing your horse stories, and we love seeing the clips of where and when you're listening to the podcast. And if you want to email us, our email is info@talk-horse.com.
So join the conversation, because we've got so much more horse talk to share with you.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.